Hi guys, welcome. Uh, it's been a while since I last worked on foruma, right? And foruma is simply, the public uh, forum that we've been working on. We're using Next.js and Firebase, right? So in today's video or in today's stream, whichever I want to call it, we are going to be adding authentication to the application. Now, in the beginning, I did say that we would not add authentication to the app to it be open for everyone, but there are there are some security concerns with that part that we were taking, right? Which could lead to potential people doing some other stuff on the sites that we don't want them to, right? And which is bad, which is very very bad, right? So to combat that, well, to challenge most of it, we'll add a simple authentication, right? And we will use um, Firebase Authentication system, right? Which is quite good. It has so many things in it, right? It has Google authentication, Twitter, Facebook, Apple, so many stuff, right? And we will try as much as possible to make use of most of them so that the site will be accessible to lots of people, right? And for those who do not want to use their email and password, like create new email and password, they can just use one of these providers. What authentications like Google, your Gmail or something, then you can sign into the application easily, right? Yeah, so we will try all that. Now, so to start off, so we need to go to our Firebase console. That's what we have here. And well, when you come here, since we've not initiated any authentication into the app, so this is what it's showing us, right? Some what getting started stuff and all that, right? So we are going to start using the authentication. So we hit get started, and Firebase will do some setups behind the scenes and shows this for us, right? So these are the various authentication system that Firebase provides us, right? So email and password is the most common one. There's also phone, Google. Google is the normal Gmail that everybody is using. Play games is the app store kind of thing, like for Google games and stuff like that. Game Center, don't know what it is. Probably by the name Game Center suggests that it's something that is related to a center for games. So you get into that center, then whatever that happens there, right? Then we have Facebook. You can do Facebook stuff. Twitter, which what's Twitter for? Oh yeah, Twitter is for like sharing of ideas and talking about stuff, which is fucking annoying. Sorry for my language. Okay, GitHub is mostly used by what developers, right, to host their code on the cloud, right, for safekeeping. Yahoo, wow, they actually provide Yahoo authentication. Uh, didn't know that Yahoo was still in the works, but anyway, that's fine, right? We will not use Yahoo. Microsoft, that's another option that we can go with, right? So we will try Microsoft later. Apple, definitely. Anonymous, so Anonymous, right? They have not taken a look at Anonymous, but I think it might be suggesting that. Let's see here. So enable anonymous guest accounts in your application, where it lets you enforce user specific security and Firebase rules without requiring credentials from your users. Oh wow. is quite interesting. So enable anonymous guest accounts in your application. So, but well, that seems interesting. I think we can explore this later on, but in today's stream, we like to focus on the email and password side, right? Want to focus on email and password, right? So, yes, allow users to sign up using their email address and password. Our SDKs also provide email address verification, password recovery, and email address change primitives. So they've raised a bunch of words over there, but it's mainly means that they are providing you with various services so that you can manage, so that you can give better service to your clients or users, right, through the email system. Yeah, basically that's it, right? Yeah, that's what these bunch of words mean, right? So we will enable that. So we click here, enable, bam. Next we have email link, passwordless sign in. Should we go for that? It's quite tempting, and it's kind of like what most applications now are doing. They send an email to an actual existing email, then you can verify from there to access the application. Well, okay, we will explore that later, but right now let's just go with the normal trend of just email and password, because we want to do some bunch of other things alongside. Then when we are done with that, we come here, do the email one, then we get rid of the password one, right? We are just going up and down with this thing, right? So save it, and then email and password is enabled, right? So we come to users, and we see we have no user in our system in the foruma, right? So now we need to go into the website itself, right? So if we go to the site, this is what we see. It's super horrible. I can't believe the site looks this bad. We should fix that today. Definitely, we should fix that today. But anyway, so we need a way for people to log in into the system, right? And then sign in and do stuff with their sign in, right? All right. So what we are going to basically do, right? We need some kind of an indicator or something to alert the person to sign in, right? And if they haven't signed in, they can hit on that indicator and then sign in. All right. So maybe let's see if we can place that at the top here and stating that sign in, right? So if you have not signed in, it will show sign in. If you signed in, it will show your profile, right? Whether an image, a name, whatever, right? So let's have a simple image here. Okay, so let's dive right into the code, and right, so this is the index page that was showing previously. Okay, so how do we start, right? So first, what I would prefer doing is to actually ensure that that indicator is showing at the top of the page, right? So you see, so that's over here, right? The header, right? So the header is this thing that we have right here, right? So we have the header. So add, then this thing pops up, then whatever. Okay, so we're going to add the button or email over here, right? Okay, so how do we do this? So it's simply just add a button, right? So we go with button, right? And we all know what buttons are. It's just some box that you hit, that you click on it to do something, right? So I'm going to say sign in, and let's save that. Check the page, reload. Wow, the page is quite slow today. Okay, but we see our sign in, we hit it and nothing happens, right? Because we've not added any kind of words action to it, right? So what action do we want to happen when we have the sign in button, right? We want you to click it, then a modal pops up, right, where you can enter your email, password. Then we also want your alias, right, which we've been using. Yeah, so this is the comment. Let's go back, right? So an alias, or maybe we should just go with name. Name is not something that we would like to go for formal, right? You just want to go with alias, right? So always alias. All right. So just email, password, and then your alias, and that's it. The rest goes somewhere. Okay. So now let's add that to the code, and yeah. So where do we place it? We can start at the bottom here, but I would want to do some refactor to this component right here, because this thing will probably become very long as we are adding all these functionality, right? So it's best to make the code refactor as early as possible. Then you can add more features to it as the application grows bigger, right? So what do we do first, right? So we have a bunch of code over here. So we have this form over here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this form and place it inside a separate file, and then import it over here, right? And it's related to some actions over here. So, and I think those ones we can just simply extract them into that component as well, because it's not really doing anything that serious, right? So we have pages, right? And I don't want to do something like this. Let's say add post.tsx, right? So add post is simply a component that will be existing, right? And I don't want to do create this file inside a pages folder, because Next.js, it will pick that file and add it to the list of URLs, right? Meaning that anybody can just go to the site and type in add post, and then it loads this component, right? And it could cause the application to crash, because this component is not really the application itself. It's just a small piece of it, right? Yeah. Right. Okay. So let's do this, right? So let's create some folder, right, called features, right? Features. Now, features, in a sense that whatever we place inside this folder is simply the various features of the application, right? The major features of the application. So all those kind of stuff we're placing in there, right? Yeah. So we have features, and the first feature that we've already worked on, which was the index page, right? This page over here is simply the home page, right? So the home or landing, let's call it home, right? I think home sounds better, right? Sounds better. Or home is way better, right? Then we bring in, oh nope, we bring in our add post what component. So we move that in there. Alright, so let's go in here. Right, and let's add, let's do some coding. So export default function add post. And alright, so add post, what are we doing? What's add post going to do, right? Add post is just going to take away our form here and move it away, right? Yeah, so add post is doing that for us, right? And we paste that in there, and we get a bunch of what warnings, right? From TypeScript saying that it doesn't know none of these things, right? So how do we fix this, right? Well, we fix them by just importing or bringing in more stuff. So the first stuff we want to move is handle submit, right? Handle submit. Let's get that, bam, and move that in here, right? And the next one I want to move is handle change, very important, right? Boom. Alright, nice. Next we want to do is move get set values over here, right? Don't worry about the warnings for now, we will solve that as we keep on moving stuff. Okay, the next one to move is set post, right? Set post. Let's get that. Wait, what? Alright, set post. Alright, so that's some true false value not needed. Right. Let's get a Firebase over here real quick. Right. So Firebase. I think the path will change though, right? The path will definitely change. So we go up one directory, another directory, then go to common, and we go to Firebase, and I think Firebase app, right? And there's one thing that really annoys me, right? This relative path that we have to do, right? It really annoys me, and there is a way we could fix this. We could make or change this to something a little bit more easy to use, which is what absolute paths, right? Which is more of like you could do, is it absolute? Yeah, I think it's absolute, which you could do something like this, right? So source, common, Firebase app, right? And Next.js will immediately pick up that, oh, we are starting at source, then we go to common, there's a folder Firebase, and then Firebase app, right? And let's add that real quick, right? Which simply is TypeScript stuff. So we go to tsconfig, and we need to specify some few things. The base URL is simply just this, like, so that's our base URL. We don't, and that's all. We don't do anything else, right? I think. Let's try it and see. So we get rid of this, and we have source. Hooray! It works. Nice. This React import React. Oh, let's import React. A post is out. It's a type. And then, wow, you see that VS Code is even adding these for us. That's awesome. Alright, so we are getting rid of most of our errors. Ooh, another error here is show notification, right? Which, nope, not that. We have to get the notification over from use notification. Let's paste that at the top here. Let's import that, and I really do love this kind of imports, right? It just tells you exactly where to go. That's fucking awesome. All right, Now yes, open post, right? So open post is simply some boolean word values, right? And what is also being managed at the top here. Okay, so how do we get open post here and also over in this component as well, because it's being used here, right? And that simply is using props, right? And props is simply just an object containing various words, properties that is being passed what a component, right? So values and stuff that I want a component to access is just called what props, right? Okay, and we are using TypeScript, so we need to define what kind of what props or objects should be passed what add post, right? And so what we you could do is you can write the name of the component and then add props to it, right? So that anyone that is reading it immediately knows that it's just there's an interface for the props being passed what add post. Nice. Alright, next is to define those what properties, right? So the add post and then what the set open post, right? So open post, we do open post, and that was a boolean, right? So boolean, and then set open post, and that is a function that doesn't come on, that doesn't return anything, right? But that function takes in what the open post, then we make it into which should be what a boolean. There we go. Right. Okay, so now we need to just add this parameter, right? So this over here is an object, then that object is of what the interface or type add post props, right? And when you do this with parameters, it's mostly like you are destructuring the objects, right? And destructuring is a strong word, too strong, right? So I think of it like taking stuff out of a container, right? Taking stuff out of a container and leaving the rest. You don't care about the rest, just the one that you need, right? So open post and then set post. Nice. And look at that, all our errors is gone. But we have to be very careful over here, right? We need to return this component and not just doing this, right? Let's get rid of this and state return, and over here, there we go. Nice. Neatly done, right? Neatly done. Okay, now we save that. Now we need to do add post to indexed page, right? Over here. Nice. So we need to bring add post. Awesome. Right, then we need to just pass in these set open post, and then the other one was what open post to open post, right? So it picks that up, so let's save that. Let's hope that's everything. Ooh. Right, so we are having some compilation issues here. Let's close that and let's restart. Usually that should have fixed it. So yarn dev should fix that real quick. Seems it's working fine. Let's get rid of that. Let's reload the page. Awesome. So it works, right? It works. That's super nice, right? So we can do this and it works. It just works. All right. Okay, now let's test and see if our ad is working. Nice, it's working, guys. It's working. All right. So once we have that working, and that's pretty neat, right? So we got rid of all that code and moved it into a very simple component doing its own thing, right? We could go on to do more refactoring, but let's put that aside for now and let's focus on the signing, right? So let's go back here, right? So let's create a file inside the home directory called authentication modal, right? Yeah, I think that does sounds much better, or sign-in modal. Let's go with auth modal, right? That sounds very nice. Auth modal, auth, right? You can change it for whatever you want, right? So export default function, auth modal, nice, right? And then return a component, right? And what does auth modal do, right? Basically, if you think about it, right, auth modal and add post, both of them are modals, right? And both of them are doing kind of like the same thing, right? So what I would do is to extract the similarities of both of these components into a separate component and then import them for both, right? And that will make it much easier to start that particular component, right? Because both of these are supposed to be modals, and yeah. So what I'm going to do here is simply create a modal component, right? So let's create a new file called modal.tsx, right? And modal.tsx is simply a modal, right? And if you don't really get the what modal are, it's simply something that is hidden behind a page, right? Until an action is called for it to show, right? Then to show up, it won't consume the entire page. Well, sometimes it can, but to show up, do whatever I want to do with it, and to go away, right? So it just pops up on and off. It's kind of like a dialogue stuff, right? Anyway, so we have a modal, and we know that modal is something that comes on and off, right? So let's define the interface for our modal, right? The props for the modal. So it's going to be active, meaning that it's going to show on the screen. We have boolean and inactive, or no, there's no inactive. Active and active can take both true and false, right? But the close, right? So on close, right? Which doesn't return anything, right? So on close, so it's something that will trigger this modal to go off, right? So we are going to destructure, so modal what props, and we are going to do active. So we are going to pick out active and on close, nice, right? And return the component, right? But I want to do a little bit of check, right? So I want to check, let's do this, right? So if it's not active, then do, oops, sorry, this should be a question mark, right? So now right, so if it's not active, if the modal is not active, don't show anything. But if it's active, you can show us, continue to do whatever is in here, right? And whatever is in here is what we actually going to be what styled, right? So let's import our styled from styled components. Nice. So we are importing stuff from style components, right? And this should be the modal wrapper, right? So it's going to wrap all your stuff inside here, all the children. So we have what? The modal wrapper, and right now we are not going to do any style in there as of now. We're going to do modal wrapper, modal, right? But we need so this modal wrapper is just a wrapper around for whatever should be inside it, right? And in order to access whatever is supposed to be inside, we need it can be passed through from React. It's called children, right? So children, but TypeScript doesn't know where the heck children is, right? Children actually exists inside the props, right? And I will explain that in a bit, right? So we have children, but still TypeScript doesn't know where children is because it's not defining here, and we are accessing it out of space, right? And we don't want that, right? So, and TypeScript doesn't like that, so we need to tell TypeScript that children is coming in from React. So how do we do that, right? So we use React. So import React, then props with children. So props with children is simply stating that you have some props, but we are going to add a child to that word prop, right? Children to props or whatever. And yeah, so that's basically it. But right now you're seeing that we are not using the on-close, right? We will use that in a bit, but for now let's just move on to this other stuff, right? So now we have the modal component. Now we can simply just go and add it. So first let's add it over here. So let's bring modal, right? So source modal, bam, right? Let's get rid of that, and now we can simply, so we have to add active, right? So it's active when open post is there, right? And on close, we'll handle that later. Alright, so let's get rid of this errors over here, get rid of this, right? Now on close is when we set what? Open post to what? False, right? So let's get that. So we paste that in there. Alright. So this means that if we are calling the on close what prop, we are simply just stating that what just set open post to what false. Okay. Now this is way cleaner, right? Now there's no ternary conditions in there. You don't care about that, right? It's all being handled inside the modal. Now we are going to do the same at the auth modal, right? So modal, right? So we get a modal. Now we need the active. So active is something, and then on close is also what? Something, right? Now so let's get these values what in there so that we can get rid of this TypeScript errors, right? So first we need to define our interface as usual. So auth modal what props, and so we need to define the active, so to be open open authentication, right? Or open auth. Yeah, I think open auth. It sounds weird, doesn't it? Open auth. Yeah, it sounds very weird. Oh well, don't really care. Right, so on close, I'm just going to do a close, right? Void. Right. As you can see, I'm just copying the name on close for on close. So active. Oh, yeah, if that's the case, then let me also do this, right? Active, right? So active, this active will be the same, this active, then on close here will be the same on close here. Nice. Right. right? So we get this auth modal props. Yeah, let's get this, right? Pass it in there. So we get active and then on close. Nice. So let's bring in active, right? And on close. Right? Very nice. Right? And you, if you probably might notice that my what I'm using to type keeps moving up and down throughout the entire screen, right? I'm using an extension called Vim, right? Which is very cool, a very interesting tool to have in your arsenal, right? It's not required, but it's quite nice to have. Right? Anyway, back to what we're doing, right? So if you have logged, so what we want the auth modal to have is first your alias, so you can use it throughout the application, right? The next is your email, then lastly is your password, right? Alright, so we need the field for that, right? So definitely it's going to be a form. So let's have our form. No actions, no action. Yeah, no action. So we have our simple form. Let's go and copy some stuff from add post, right? Because that's what React is, copying stuff, right? And let's get this one here first, right? And I would like to talk about something here, right? So you could see that in React, right, or mostly when you're handling forms and stuff like that, you probably be making these kind of copies, right? So the same thing. So let me copy this, right? So you see we are doing all this copying of basic functions and stuff like that, right? Which is fine, but as your application starts growing bigger and bigger, right, it can be quite tedious or difficult to be maintaining some of these repetitive code, right? Which mostly deals with forms, right? So what I would recommend to do is, it's not like it's a recommendation. It's not by force to do it, but it's very helpful to use a third party library to help manage these kind of tedious tasks, right? And some of these libraries that you can use, one is Formic, right? The other, so we have Formic, we have React final form, right? Yeah, we do have React final form. The others are React. I kind of forgotten, right? But usually the Formic and React final form are quite popular, right? Quite popular. Yeah, and they have a very good they have large contributors working on this one, so you could it guarantees most of the time that it's quite well tested, right? So I'm going to use Formic in this case, right? Yeah. We'll maybe try React final form and others later, right? In this case or in other projects, right? But for this project we are just going to use Formic, right? So let's get Formic in here, right? So let's go into our directory, projects, right? And let's add Formic, right? Yeah. Oops. Because you're using yarn, right? So you need to do yarn add. So yarn add Formic, and is adding Formic for us. Very nice. So it will take some time, but it's going to get it in there. All right. Okay. So once we add Formic, it's going to help us turn in managing some of these stuff, right? Okay. All right. So, all right. Okay. So once we have Formic installed, we can simply import Formic. Right? So import from Formic. There we go. So we have Formic beautifully installed. Let's fix this stuff, right? What did I just? Oh no, whatever. Okay, right. So we have Formic installed, and Formic comes with so many stuff, right? So it comes with so many helper or utilities that can help you write better forms, right? So many stuff, right? And you can even use Formic alongside another library called YUP, right? YUP, right? To for form validations, right? To ensure that the form is in a valid state before you send it off to where is it to a server, right? To a server, right? Okay. So I'm going to use use Formic, right? And it's a hook, right? Use Formic. Right? So use Formic is what? Right? It's a simple hook which creates various state managers and stuff like that for your forms, right? And we will see that in a second, right? So it requires first initial values, right? So I'm just going to put a simple object there. Then also requires another thing called on submit, right? So on submit is a function. In this case, that's it, right? So it's a function, that's it here. So we have our on submit function. All right. So and Formic will return to us an object full of stuff, right? So if we go inside the object and check, so all these are stuff that Formic provides for us, right? So you can see we have get field helpers, handle blur, handle change. So you notice that the handle change function that we have, Formic already has that for us, handle reset, and so many other things, right? So we are simply just going to be using handle change in this sense, right? And let's get rid of this one over here. That's it, right? So we don't have to go and be writing some of these functions anymore. Right? Just maybe do it your first time, that's fine. From then onwards, for large applications or for building stuff quickly, just go for some of these third-party libraries, right? The next that Formic also provides us is something, it's a property called values, right? Values. Now, values is simply the stuff or the forms data. That's what is being contained, right? So values, right? So values and stuff that is being contained inside the form will be stored inside our value. So any change that we do in the form, be it typing or stuff like that, what the corresponding value of that will be placed inside values. Okay, so this is an alias, right? So Formic is TypeScript is complaining that values doesn't have any property called alias because Formic is picking the types for this values from the initial values that we have here, right? So this is an empty object, right? So Formic is saying that it's a damn empty object. There's nothing in it. So why are you trying to put something there whilst that object is empty, right? So yeah, TypeScript is ensuring that we actually do something about it, right? So we bring in our alias, right? And we know that so in this form we need an alias. Then the next we need an email. Then lastly we need a password. Then So password. So alias email password. Nice. Right. Now we can go ahead and add a little bit more. Right. So let's go and copy these ones, right? Because these are forms, so paste that in there. Then lastly we need that. All right. So we have our alias. The next is what? An email. So let's say email. So email, right? And email and email. Nice. Right. So the next one is password, right? So let's change this to password. And bam, bam, bam. Right. So you can see I didn't actually type these word password. I just typed the first one, and Vim recorded that. They knows that the next time that I wanted to just bring in password, I just hit period, and then it just repeats that action for me. So I don't have to retype everything again, which is really awesome, right? Okay. All right. So that's it for our form. The alias, email, then password, right? So let's save that. But we are not done yet, right? But anyway, we want to see this form in action first, right, before we continue on, right? So let's bring this form inside our index dot h index.tsx, right? So we bring in add auth modal, right? Nice. But auth modal requires an active prop and an unclosed prop, right? So active being that should be a boolean value, right? Yeah, active should be a boolean value, and unclosed is a function. So we need that, right? So so we are going to use state for that, right? React with state. So use states, then we have what false. Actually, I want to do something different, right? Instead of creating another state, I want to reuse the same open post states, but let it have different values, right? Let me get rid of this. So different values, meaning that it should act like a state machine. So it should have different states in which the open post can be in, right? But using the name open post doesn't really make sense, right? So I'm just going to change this to modal active modal, right? Yeah, because different modals that will be open, right? So let's change this to set active modal, probably 2, right? Set active modal to whatever. Right. Now we need the various states, right? And what are the states in which active modal can be in, right? So I'm going to use a string here. So the first one is it can be in a non-state, right? So meaning that no modal is open. The next state we want the active modal can be in is a post, right? Posting, or is it post modal? I think, yeah, post modal, right? So meaning that you are going to be posting a modal, like that you are going to be adding a post. You are going to create a forum, and people can comment and talk about whatever that you've posted, right? So that's the modal for that. And the next one that we want is the one that we just add, the auth modal, right? Because we want the one modal to show at a time, especially in these two use cases, right? Because you can't add a modal, you can't add any post until you've authenticated, right? And if you've authenticated, you can just only add post or post stuff, right? Okay, so what's the modal for that is auth modal, auth modal, right? So these are the various states in which active modal can be in. So we need to make change to this, right? Because now that is not a boolean anymore, but rather a string of these specified types or values, right? So there's one of the powers of TypeScript, right? So we are setting it to none the first time, right? So when a page loads, the no modal should be open, right? So definitely, yeah, that's it. So no modal opens. Now we need to go down here and make changes to these states, right? So the first one is what post BTN, right? So set active modal to, then which modal do we want to? We want to what? The post modal to be what? Active. The next is this thing that we have here, right? Set open post, right? So we know that open post is supposed to take in what? A boolean word value, right? But now it's going to change because of what we have here, right? Because of the active modal, right? So first, let's make the change. Let's write this, right? Let's add this. Right. So when set open post, it should actually be a close. I should have made a better name of that, but I didn't. Whatever. Okay. We'll fix that, right? Now, open post is supposed to be when the active modal is what? Post modal, right? So when the active modal is the same as what? The post modal, then this add post should be what? Active. Right? Let's go and change the names real quick. This is kind of like confusing me. So let's change this to active. Active here, definitely. Right? And this one is on close. And let's get rid of what's in here, right? Because definitely that's not working. Right? So let's change that to on close. Boom. Right. Because we are closing, there is no need. We are not passing any values in here, right? And in this case here, it's just on close, so we are just going to be passing in this. Nice. Awesome. Okay. Whoa, what the? Alright, so let's save that. And so as you come here, so you see it's fixed, right? The name has been changed. Okay, now for the auth modal, so we want it to be active when the active modal is the auth modal, right? Then on close will be when set active modal to what? Now. But you can see that we are duplicating these two things, right? I tend to avoid repeating code most of the times, right? So in this case, I'm simply going to create a simple function called close modal, right? It doesn't take in anything, but it's simply just going to set the active modal to none. And I kind of like the English here, right? Set active modal to none, right? Very simple. Isn't that nice, right? So let's put that in there. Let's place this in there. Nice, right? We could do the same for set active modal over here to post modal, but we'll do that later. All right, let's save that. Let's check that everything is working. Nice. So add button. Whoa, we didn't check that. God damn. All right, that's bad. We need to fix that, right? Oh, something happened. Let's reload. Wonder what's happening here. Give me a second here. Seems it's reloading. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it did come, right? But anyway, we should kind of fix that, right? That we're able to post and we're able to post this, right? So we should fix that, right? So let's go to Firebase and get rid of it. So Firestore database, if we can get to it. So we have post and I think it should be this one, right? Nope. Yeah, this one. So let's how do we remove a collection? This one. So delete documents, right? Yep. Delete it and it goes away. Nice. So let's just reload the page and we get back our two posts. So we should definitely fix that, right? But we are going to use Formic and Yelp to fix that. We are not going to fix it ourselves by writing a bunch of if conditions. No, we are going to let Formic handle that for us soon, right? So let's head back to the code. So you can see that when we click on add, the post shows up, right? So now let's do that for the signing, right? So add button, right? So button. So on click. So oops, it's not so on click, then set active modal to post modal, right? We save that and then go back to the page. So if I click on sign in button, this post form should go away and something else should pop up, right? Ooh, that's interesting. Nothing happened. Wonder why that is. Wait, what? Wait a minute. Oh, damn. Made a damn blunder. Alright, so back to Auth modal. Save that. Sign in. Aha. Now you can see that it's beautifully changed, right? So if I go back to add, damn, it comes. Sign in. Yeah, nice. Super nice. Okay, so let's go back to our Auth modal form, right? And then add a few more things, right, to help us know what's up, right? So let's add a placeholder over here, right? Call this an alias, right? So that this thing won't have some empty stuff in there you don't even know which is which, right? So alias, let's copy that. This will be an email, right? And then this will be a password. Usually it should have a confirm password, but that's too much. We are just going to be just doing a simple password. So let's save that, and it should change. Nice. So we have our alias, email, then our password, right? Okay. So you can type in a bunch of stuff in here and blah blah blah, right? And we also want to add some new other props to it as well, right? So required, right? So we want the password to be required, so the browser will check that, right? We want the email also to be required, and finally we want our what's this, alias to also be required, right? Because we need your alias in order to say that you commented or posted this. That's nice, right? Okay, so now we have all that. We finally need a button in order to submit all the data that we have in here, right? So let's get our button. So button, we know how to create our buttons. So button, right? And it's called a sign in. Nice. So we have a sign in, and yeah, that's a sign in. All right, come on. Nice. So we have our sign in, right? Yes. But all right, so now we are going to add a type and say that this button is a submit button, right? Then so what this means that, so saying this buttons of type submit means that the events that will be called whenever this button is clicked will be will be attached to the forms events, right? So when we want to submit, I click on the button, it means that it's going to call on the forms submit event, right? And we could actually test that, right? So we know that format provides us with a bunch of functions or utilities, and one of them is handle submit. So handle submit simply is just going to handle the forms submit events, right? So let's call on submit, and there we go, right? So that's it. So the form is going to be handling everything behind the scenes. Then when we submit, it submits. That's nice. All right. Okay, so that's it, and let's see, we hit sign in. So the browser is telling us that these fields are required, right? So we definitely need that, right? So we have alias and blah blah blah. So if I give it a wrong email and then put in a bunch of password, the browser says that, hey, you can't do this, we need an actual email, right? So let's say alias as this alias email is alias at email.com, right? And we have alias, right? So that's the password, alias. Let's make the password generic 123456. That's it, right? From 1 to 6, that's the password, right? For alias. All right, so when we hit submit, nothing happens, right? But the form is valid based on the browser's standards and based on the stuff that we said is required. Okay. And I think there should be another property. Aha. So min length, right? So min length means the length or the minimum length for whatever the text should be, and I think we could go with 6, right? Yeah. So let's save that. Let's reload and let's see. Let's do this. Bam. Aha. The browser catches that for us, right? So wow, the browser is quite smart, right? We don't really have to add all these kind of validations ourselves. That's very awesome, right? So we can add that same validation to our input over here, right? But we want the minimum length to be 3 because some people can have an alias of IoT. No one understands that. Like you can have an alias like that, right? But we don't want somebody to have an alias of like a document, right? So we want to put a maximum length on that. So we say the maximum length should be let's say 10 characters. I don't know, 10 characters. Let's make it 16. No, 16 is too wide, right? So that's 10 characters, right? You can shorten it anyway, blah blah blah, doesn't matter, right? So we can have an alias as simple as this. Let's add our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Nice. Oh, and the browser is telling us. Nice. So sign in, everything is fine. So if I have an alias of just as, that's very bad, right? No, the browser will not going to like that, right? So we're going to type blah blah blah. So if and even the browser will prevent you from typing more than 10 characters, right? So you can't even add any more from that, right? So that's a good validation from the browser. Big claps. Anyway, so back to our alias, and that's it, right? So we have our form done. Now we need to add in the logic for the forms. What do you call it? The logic behind the form, right? The logic behind the form, right? And all that is going to be done inside the on submit, right? The on submit. Okay, so how do we start, right? So first, right, we want to do is we want to send this email and password to Firebase, right? Because remember that in Firebase is asking that it should be what the signing method was an email or a password, right? Email password. There was no alias, right? So we are going to use that. So just only email and password. We send that to Firebase, and Firebase will return to us an ID, right? And using that ID, we can attach it to the alias and then store those things in Firestore, right? And then we can use that in other places, right? Okay. So let's start doing all that stuff that we just said, right? It's quite right. So on submit, and oh, would you look at that? On submit already provides some values for us, right? And so we could pick the values from here, or we could pick the values from the parameters, right? Anyway is fine, right? Anyway is fine. That doesn't really hurt, right? So let's start. So we're going to pick so we need to send the email and password first to Firebase Authentication, right? So let's bring in Firebase, right? Can't we import that? Oh, no, we don't want this Firebase import, right? We want our custom made Firebase import, right? So we go to source, common, and Firebase, and would you look at that? This just screams a better import, right, than having some bunch of dot in there, right? That doesn't make sense to have dots in your imports. No. Anyway, just digress, right? So we need Firebase, and then we need the auth, right? So auth is a function. Then we call in sign in with email and password, right? So you need to sign in with email and password. That's fine. Okay, and we need to provide the email and password. So there are two parameters, right? That's fine. So you need values dot email and values dot password. It's kind of annoying to be doing this, right? Values dot email, values dot password, but we'll go with it, right? So that will return us with a promise, and the promise has the user credentials, right? So if it's successful, you get a user credential. If it's not successful, then we do other stuff, right? Okay, so we can go by using the .then, but the line is already too long, so we are just going to be using the await, right? So let's say user credentials. So await. What is that? But we can't use await on. We can't use await in a normal word function. We can only use await in an asynchronous word function. So let's do this, right? So we need to make this async, and then we do this. Right? So we've made it a clean asynchronous word function, right? Yeah. So checking a few things here, right? Looks like we are doing a lot of then catch, then and catch, then and catch. We are changing all that to this, right? Yeah, this way cleaner, right? Okay, so if it passes what successfully, so we have the user credential, then we need the user, right? What's this credential? Oh, sorry. So the provider ID, email, and blah blah blah. We don't need none of that. We just need the user, and we need the ID, the UID, this, right? So we need this UID, and then attach it to the alias and store both of them in Firebase and Firestore, right? Now the reason why I'm stating that we need to do it that way is because we will modify the posts and comments that we have where the user have to be sending their alias, right? We rather change that to use the user ID instead. We change that in the Firestore, we use the user ID, and when it returns, it will rather pick what the user's what alias in the firewall store. Right? So that's why we need that. Right? So we get the UID. It says undefined, doesn't matter. Right? So we need to place that into Firestore. Right? So Firestore. Then create a collection, right? A collection for users, because that's where we are going to be storing people, right? Then add seems I'm forgetting a few things. And it's sorry, add post, yeah, doc, then set. It's yeah, that's what I wanted. Set, nope, document, then set, right? Then what do we want to set inside that word document? Sorry. So we want the ID, right? So we are going to call it a user ID, and let's grab that, paste that in there. So we have the user ID. Then we want the alias of what that user. So it's going to be values.alias, right? And we want this, right? They created that. So when did that person join foruma, right? So use the created at, right? That's nice. Should we also have an updated at, so that in case when it updates, we can have the updated at? No, we are using NoSQL, so whenever that happens, we can add that on the fly, so we don't have to worry ourselves, right? So we add that. What am I doing? So set returns a promise, so you can await on that till everything is successful. Then we show a notification, right? So we need to first get our notification from use notification. Nice. Then we call show notification, just a simple show what notification. And what are the stuff that I want to show? So message sign in successfully. I can spell, right? The duration and the type would be a success, because a successful message. Wait, don't we have a successful notification? I guess we don't. Should add that, right? So this is a successful error message, so it shouldn't last for long. So 1 second should do. Give me a second here. Let's check this out. Ooh, we don't have a success notification. That's quite boring. Anyway, so all this is well and is good in the case where the authentication is successful. But for the case when the authentication, in the case when the user was not able to sign in, we need to also handle that case, right? So we need to, so that happens when an error is thrown in any of these two, right? Any of these two from Firebase, right? So we need to place both of that in try catch block. Now, because we are using the async await, in order to handle errors, we need to use the try catch block. If we were using the .then that one we have to use the .catch, right, in order to handle errors. Okay. So we have all that. Then we need to show the error notification and state to the user that sorry, could not sign in. Okay. That's fine. And maybe you want to add a specific error from the error message, right? Probably the email already exists and blah blah blah, all that good stuff, right? So we get that, and So for now, we are not going to go in all too deep to be checking the errors and stuff that is going in there. No, we are just simply going to be using that could not what sign in, right? And then maybe later on in the future we have a better what error notification or system. Okay. So this is nice, right? So I think everything should be okay now. So if I were to go back into the application and then sign in, so sign in, right? So if I were to sign in with alias, right, and alias has an alias email, right? That's his email, and his password is simply this. He signs in, right? Ooh, it says could not sign in, right? So let's check what the problem is. So let's go to our console. Most definitely we are going to get the error around here. Right? Oh, could not sign in. That's strange. So let's see what's happening, right? So come on. Console.log values. Let's see. Let's log the values. Let's see what's happening. So sign in, well, it does work. This is still showing. Okay, let's rather log the error that we are getting. Alright, so error, and then save that. Will it compile? Yeah. So it's saying Firebase, blah blah blah. Auth is not a fine. Ooh, we need to import that. We need to add that into the file. Whoa, where are you going? Let's go over here. Yeah, we should have added that. Right? This is kind of annoying with Firebase. Right, so Firebase, then is it Auth? Yeah, yes. That should do it. Right, so we add the Auth module through Firebase. Okay. And we hit that, so well, it was able to sign in. Oh, yeah, right. So user not found, right? So what we're doing, we are signing in with an account that doesn't exist yet, right? So what we would do is we are going to make modifications here. So in this case that we're trying to sign in, which doesn't make sense. So this should have been for creating a user, right? So what we do is if we sign in, then it fails with what? It usually gives us a code over here. Nice. So if it fails with this code, user not found, then we will create the user, right? So that the person doesn't have to be entering all the credentials and stuff again, right? So it will create the user in Firebase, and then and then we will read it and sign the person in, right? So that means, so it was stored in error. Then if we have error.code being auth/user not found, all right. So if error.code is equal to auth/user not found, then we move on to, what is this? Objects is of type unknown. So it's saying error is of type unknown. Okay, as any. Doesn't Firebase? Okay, so I think we could do this, right? Don't Firebase have error or something? Firebase error. Yeah, that's nice. So Firebase error. So as a Firebase error, so user not found, then we create the user, right? So we use the Firebase dot auth module, then create user with email and password, right? So we bring in back the values dot email, then values dot password, right? So it creates the email, and in this instance we can't do the await that we're doing here because we can't do this. We can't do anything like this, right? So we need to place this inside the what a dot then, right? And then handle the results from there, right? So which will return to us the user credential, right? It's kind of really interesting, right? So we get a user. So this that we're doing here, we simply grab that. We can't do an await here, so we have to return, right? Let's make this a little bit cleaner, right? So we get a user credential, then we create the user in Firestore, right? So once the user is created, so this will return to us another promise, so we can then tag on dot then, right? So which we don't really care about what we return, we just want to show this notification, right? So we show this notification, then right, so but if something were to happen during the promise cycle, we simply just move on to just show the error notification, right? But so that's in the case when the user not found. But if the case is not that, then we simply just do else show error notification. Sorry, I could not sign in, right? So hopefully this should do something for us. I'm not entirely sure, but it should, right? So anyway, let's save that. Let's go to the browser, and hopefully we should have some success. Okay, that's interesting. Whoa, did it not work? Let's check our users. It did create a user. Did create a user. Let's check out Firestore, but why did it give us an error? Alright, the collection is there, the user is there, the dates created. Yeah, so why did that give us that problem? Right. Oh right. Because of this, right? Because of this. Yeah. Because then none of these notifications showed up. Awesome, right? So okay, and so that's it for the authentication, right? So if we are not able to successfully sign you in, then we check if you were what, if the error was a user not found. So if the user was not found, then we do create the user with that email and password, then we store that in Firestore, the credentials, then we show a notification, right? But if something happens during this pipeline, then we show an error, or we could not sign you in. That's perfectly awesome, right? But something strikes me as odd that we are having a try catch block, but in the catch we are having this thing, this then stuff, right? So I was wondering, maybe we could actually convert this whole thing into a dot then, right? So let's see how it would look like. Probably it will turn to some horrible thing that nobody wants to see, right? But it shouldn't be a big issue, right? All right. So if it's successful, then we do this, right? We don't do anything else. But if it fails in the catch, right, then we get a reason or an error. So we do get an error, right? Whoa, what's VS Code doing? VS Code is really annoying. So as a that's a Firebase error. Nice, right? So let's just grab everything in here. Is that in here? Then get rid of the try catch and final try catch, and bam, that's it, right? And well, it seems kind of simple in my opinion, though it looks kind of creepy. Right? But in a sense though, this only happens so it could actually no, that'll be taking it a bit too far, right? So I think that's it. Let's save that. The code looks very squeaky, right? Oh, then we don't need to do this. Let's get rid of that, and that should do it. Right? That should yeah. So now we could actually sign in. Signing successful. Signing was successful, right? So it will create the account once, and you can sign in from then onwards throughout the life, right? Now when that's done, when we are successful in signing in, we need to close this modal, right? So, and I would like to create a function for both these cases, right? So let's have a function called show success notification. Show and close show. Trying to come up with a name for this. Let's see. Show success notification. Let's see, and close modal. That's notification. Well, that's very descriptive, isn't it, right? Show success notification and close modal. Bam, right? I think that would do it, right? I think that should do it. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, let's take that. Let's save that in there, right? And then call the onClose, right? Awesome. So onClose. So over here we can simply just do show success notification and close modal, right? Because we know that in JavaScript functions are first class citizens, which doesn't make sense. I don't know why people start say first class citizen, right? Just see that functions can be used everywhere, right? You can pass a function to another function to return a function to do other things with another function. It's a function. You can use it with anything, to just say that. But I think it technically that's what it makes sense, right? So first class citizen can go anywhere, right? So the same can be done for this case here. So show, then that. Well, that's very neat. If I do say so, right? So Firebase Auth sign in with email and password, then show success notification and close Modal. So if it fails, then we go on and do other things. Nice. Right. But as it's closing the Modal, we also want to reset the form as well, because we saw that the data was still being saved even though we have successfully signed in, right? So let's close the form using another function from format called reset form, right? So reset. So we are going to reset the form and close beautifully. So reset the form, then that's what we will do. Boom. And that's all. That is all, right? Yeah, I think that's all. Maybe we could improve the code a little bit, move this to another function, then pass that function in here. That would be nice. What do you guys think? So you do notice that when you are signing with an email and password over here, right, it just picks what the email and password, right? The alias is not needed. The alias is only needed when we are creating your account, right? So it kind of tells us that alias is optional. It can be optional, right? But we are going to leave it as required so that anyone who try to think they are smart enough will find out that they are not that smart enough, right? So we sign in, bam, nice. Then we've successfully signed in into foruma, or yeah, that's the name of the app, foruma, or probably the project code, a hidden code. That's beautifully done. Now let's I think we'll be using a lot of success messages, right? So let's create a notification for that, right? Let's go and click that. Well, damn it. All right, that's awesome. So let's just simply const show success notification, right? Or maybe it's here a success toast. Who knows? Right. So React dot use callback, right? And the reason why I'm using a callback here is we will most definitely be using this function inside an effect, right? And we don't want the effect to be called every single time this function changes, right? So we are using a callback in order to memorize the function's information so that it doesn't re-render every single time, right? Let's bring in our dependency of nothing, and let's just go and copy everything in here and then change a few things. Oops, let's bring in a message of string, and then change this to a success. And this one is saying for 10 seconds. Let this be a 5 seconds thing. Oh, that's. And let's return that. So show, come on, show success notification. There we have that. Let's save that and let's use that. Let's show success notification. Let's get that, and let's bam. Let's get rid of all these stuff. And let's get rid of this. Now the code is way cleaner, right? Very clean. Well, except this part. It's kind of annoying. Right? Maybe later on we could improve it. We will improve it. Right. Anyway, let's move on to. So once we we are able to what? Sign in. We need to let the user know that they've actually signed in, right? To see themselves they've signed in. So this little sign in button should go away and should be replaced by the user's what? Alias, right? Okay, so how do we do that? So let's go into the index, the home page, and then let's check over here, right? So we have a button, the sign in button, right? So when we've signed in successfully, this button should go away and then should be replaced by the user's what? Name, wherever, whatever, the alias, whatever it is, right? So how do we do that? Firebase provides us with a very helpful what? Function, which you can use to identify the user that has currently what? Logged in, right? So let's do that. So we are going to place in a use effect because it's something that will happen outside of the React lifecycle. So let's get that. So no dependency, right? So what is it that we are going to be using, right? So auth and then what? Current user, right? So current user is the currently signed in what? User, right? And there is another function that it provides you was on auth state change, right? So when the user's what state has changed, probably he has logged out, something else, yeah, you could what? Listen on that and then do other actions based on whatever the state is, right? Yeah. So we can use the current user, which returns what? A Firebase what user or now, right? So it could be an actual user or now, but we care about the UID, right? The UID. So if the user exists, we use the UID. If not, if the user doesn't exist, then it does other things, right? Yeah, that's fine. Okay, so let's get the UID. And what do we want this UID for, right? Well, we want to get the user from what? The database's alias and maybe any other things that will be attached to this user, right? So first let's do this. Let's place this in the user UID, right? Let's do this. UID is equal to whatever this is, right? So if there is no UID, right, it means that the user hasn't logged in, so we are going to return, we are not going to do anything, right? But if the user is logged in, then what we are going to do is we are going to go to Firebase Firestore, right? Go into what? The users collection, then look for the document, right? Sorry. Wait, did I? Oh, sorry, I kind of messed it up. Right? So Firestore collection, right? The collection, then users, not the document, but I think where? No, sorry. So where? What's the field part that we are looking for, right? Is it the UID? I think. How did we save that? User ID. Right? So user ID, right? So where user ID is equal to the UID, right? So where the user ID is equal to what? The UID, then I think what? All right, so we need to get that, right? So we need to get it only what once, right? We only need to get this user once, and yeah, so which will return to us. So it's the same as this get, which returns some snapshot. Then we deal with that snapshot, right? So we get that. Let's do a dot then, and then do a snapshot, because it looks like with this application we are going to be doing a lot of dot then. Right, so maybe we want things a little bit more consistent. We are going to do a snapshot. Okay, so we have wait, docs. Let's check out what docs is. Right? We only want a single thing, but why is it trying to give us a lot of stuff? Right? Log, and let's save that. Okay, let's see what happens. Let's go to the app, and it gives us an n, or whatever that n is, right? So it's returning to us an array, but we know that it's always going to be a single person every single time, right? So we know that docs is just a single person, so we're just going to do at index 0, right? And then get the data, right, which is just going to be a function, and we know that the data is just the user's object, right? But first we need to define the type of the user's type. And how do we do that? We simply just go back to our types, and let's make some changes here. Kind of don't like this relative paths, right? This much cleaner. So let's define the user's type. So export interface, right? Then we have the user. That's it, right? So user, and we know that the user has an alias, right? Which is a string. It has a user ID. Is a string, and then it has a created at, which I think is a date. Well, it's a Firebase date, or a string unknown, right? Unknown. Let's just leave it as unknown. Okay, so back over here we get a data. We know that this data is of a user, right? So const user is equal to data, then user is as user, right? So it is a user. Sorry, we rather need to do this, right? Do this as user, and we get that, right? So we have the user. Now we need to place this user in the state where then we can make assertions with that state to define the actual things that we need to see, right? So let's create a state over here. React.use state, right? And it's going to be a null for now, but it's going to be a user or null, right? Because if there is no user, then definitely it's null. If there is a user, then it's not null, right? So auth user, then set auth user, right? Awesome. So user, then auth user. That's super nice. All right, so we need to set auth user to user. That's it. That's all, right? Pretty easy. Maybe we could have just done this and limit the amount of variables we create, right? Okay, that's nice. Now if there is a user, so if there is an auth user, right, if user does exist, then we want to show something, but if it doesn't exist, then we want to continue to show this button, right? But what do we want to see? let's just say it's going to be a div, right, with what, the auth user dot alias. That's all. Let's save that. Let's wait for the app to reload, and boom, so you can see that the alias is there. Very, very cool. So that's it. Well, that's not it, but in the first phase, that's it, right? So a user is able to what, log in and or log in to the forum, and that's it, right? We've added the functionality for that, right? I think maybe we'll add Google authentication so that you can use that instead of what, the email and password if you prefer. Then we'll add Twitter and Facebook authentication to it as well, to make it more and more accessible, right? Yeah, because some people really don't like to be entering email and password all over the place, right? And for Google authentication is, I think it's quite simple, right? Quite simple if you go into the sign-in methods, right? So I think that we simply just need to enable it, right? And then I think that'll be it, right? But for Facebook, you do need a few other things, right? So app ID, app secrets, quite an other stuff, right? But we'll handle all that soon, right? Twitter too as well. Yahoo, no Yahoo, right? Okay, but we also want to add this functionality for the user, right, where they can log out of the application if they prefer, right? So we have the alias, and well, let's put a button next to what the alias, where when they click on logout, they log out of the application, right? Which will be quite simple to do. So let's create a fragment here, right? Let's create a button, right? A button called logout, right? And the reason why I'm placing this button next to the alias is simply because this logout button doesn't have any sense of it being there if the person hasn't got logged in, right? That's the reason why. So we have the logout. Oops, let's bring this in there. Right. And what happens when the user clicks on this, right? So we want to sign out user, right? Let's see sign out user and reset state or something. Anyway, this is much better, right? So sign out user, right? So let's create that function. So sign out user, bam, right? Now, so sign out user, then how do we sign out the user, right? Well, that's quite simple. We use the Firebase Auth, right? Then we call sign out, right? And if we call the sign out, well, it will sign the user out of the application, right? But there is a catch, or there is a caveat to this, right? Well, it's not really a caveat, it's more of how we've coded the application at this point, right? What I'm talking about, when we sign out the user, you will still see the user being available or you still see the alias in the application, right? Now the reason for that is we are not listening for any changes towards the user's auth state, right? So if the user has logged out or logged in, we don't know, right? So that's why it will still see that the user is logged in or is still in the application, right? So in order to handle that case, is we should listen to the user's auth word state, right? So remember I pointed out a function that's in the auth namespace called on auth state changed, right? On auth state. So there is a function that we are going to be using, right? So on auth state changed, right? So it takes in what? A function, right? And that function provides you what? With a user, right? The authenticated what? User, right? Now the user can be in two states, right? It can be the Firebase user, the Firebase user, or it can be null, right? And if it's null, it means that the user has logged out, possibly, right? Or it doesn't exist, right? But if there is a user object, then it means that the user does exist, right? So to do that, we are going to check. So if there is no user, we simply set auth user to null. That's it, right? So that will check that and then handle this case, right? So we should see the sign in button back again when the logout button is clicked, right? So let's the app reload, then we have our logout button, right? So if I click on logout, so we come back to our sign in, right? And if I come to sign in again, right? So I click my alias 1 2 3 4 5 6, then I sign in, then sign in successful. Oh right, we forgot. We forgot to handle this case, right? So this has made a change, but this only runs once, but this one is a listening event, right? So we should handle that case, right? So if so, that will mean we are simply just going to be calling this, which is quite tedious if I do say so, right? So better yet, we are not going to be what? Oops. Let's grab this, right? And then let's do this, right? So instead of doing this, we are going to do this, right? So this user dot that's strange. User does exist, but why is it complaining about that? That doesn't make any sense. Oh right, we forgot to add the return statement, right? Yeah, you don't want this case to run if there is no user, right? So we get a user, and then we grab that from Firebase, and then we store the user. So if the user doesn't exist, then we log the user out, right? So if we reload, you should see our alias. So we log out, then we log out. But if we sign in with our alias, our email, then our password 1 2 3 4 5 6, then we sign in there, and you see that our alias is there. That's fucking awesome, right? Very awesome. So now we have all this in our application, right? Now we need to make some modifications to the posts themselves. And what modification do we want to do, right? Well, it's quite simple. So what we want to do is, instead of an alias being stored, let's check the file store so I can better explain what I mean here, right? So if you go to the post, and you can see for a post we have an alias being stored, right? But rather we are not going to store an alias anymore, but we are going to use the user's ID, right? The same too for the comments as well. We are going to be using the user ID in place of the alias, so that when we are fetching that user's information, that comment, we can actually get the most current what user information. Maybe they have changed their alias or something, we can still track it, right? So let's go back, right? Let's clear our posts, right? Delete collection. Yep. Let's delete. So we want to clear everything, make it new. Whoa, a Firebase bug. We've got a Firebase bug. They should pay us at least $500 for catching such a bug. Right, having a bug inside a Firebase app, like a Google app. God damn. Anyway, back to our app. So if we reload, we probably need to do something about that, showing the sign in before this. We should do something about it, but that will be another video, right? So what we are going to do is just make some small little changes to the posts, right? So adding a post, that will be add post. So we go to add post, and well, first things first, let's make some changes here, right? So now we have format, we can make improvements to this, right? So let's get that done real quick. So initial values will be things will change, right? So let's get this. All right. So now when a user is posting, the user doesn't have to add their alias, they should just post, right? So that's what you're going to do. So post, that's it, right? And let's get rid of this. So post is just a simple string, right? Okay, so let's get your values, and let's get your handle change and handle submit, right? So few functions. Let's get rid of all this, and let's get rid of the alias, not needed anymore, right? And we do have to do some changes here, that's fine, right? Okay, so that's interesting. I wonder why this is there. Anyway, back to what we have to do, right? So now what we're gonna do is, let's just copy everything that we have here, right? So inside a post, right? So we have the created at the time it was created. We have the post inside values post, right? But we need the user ID. And how do we get that, right? We can get that from here, right? That's where we can get the user's ID, right? So what we are going to do is we are going to extract this into its own separate hook and then make use of it, right? So let's go into common. So we don't have a hooks folder, so let's create a hooks folder. So common hooks, then we create a new file for use of TS, just a TS, right? There's a simple function, right? So export default function. So use auth. So use auth, then we are just going to copy all the stuff that we have here, bam, and then copy all this right in there. Okay, so first let's fix these problems. Let's get Firebase out here. Come on, why is it giving Firebase from there? Firebase. Whoa, I don't need Firebase in there, right? So let's go to source, common, then Firebase, then we have the Firebase app, right? Then we need to return the auth user. Nice, very nice, right? Okay, so but we also want to prevent more reads from here, because anytime this hook is run in a different component, is going to fetch from Firestore back in there, right? And we want to reduce that as much as possible, right? So let's first, so how do we do that? So first we are going to put that into what? Local storage, right? We are going to put whatever that's in here into what? Local storage. And when the user signs out, we remove that from local storage as well, right? So let's start with here, right? So local storage. Whoa, forgot that we're using Next.js, right? So in Next.js, if you just do local storage like this, when it starts rendering from the server, local storage doesn't exist, right? So it's going to throw an error, right? So we need to so let's tag on the window, right? And don't, right? So first, so let's check and see if window does exist, right? So if window, so if type of window is not equal to undefined, right, then we no. But I'm gonna do this, right? So if it's undefined, just return, right? But if it's not undefined, then we're going to set item, then we're going to say auth user, right? Yeah, I think that should do it. Let's grab all this into a simple user, right? Because we can't place as a user object inside local storage. We can only place what? A string. So we're going to do a string, so user, right? And let's bring that here, and then let's get what? User, right? Nice. Okay, so and if the user does log out of the application, then this is what we're gonna do, right? We are going to clear him out of what? Local storage. So local storage dot remove item for auth/user, right? And we also need to place a check there. This is really annoying, right? Yeah. Okay. Right. So we return that. But if we come, load into this application right here, if this component mounts, the user does exist, but we haven't placed a check in order to prevent it from actually going into Firebase, right? So we, okay, so what we could do is, we don't want to pass this state in here. It's going to be very annoying, right? So what we're going to do is, let's say stored user, right? Then we are going to do window.local storage dot get item, right? But in a sense, we don't really want to do all these check cases, right? So if the window object doesn't exist, none of these should run, right? So, yeah, so placing at the root here is way better than putting it inside each of these, right? Okay, so get item, and what do we want to get? So auth/user, right? So if stored user, right? So if there is no stored user, so if there is no stored user, well, no, if there is a stored user, just continue, right? Don't run anything. But if there is no stored user, then continue to what? Fetch from Firebase, right? Yeah, that. So I think that's it, right? So let's take this through. So if there is no user here, then we just remove that from from local storage, then get rid of it, right? But if there is a user, if there is no user stored in local storage, then return. Well, if there is a user, so if there is a user stored in local storage, then we don't run this. But if there is no user stored, then we go on to Firebase and then do all this stuff, right? But first we need to get that user from what? Local storage into the state first, right? So let's do that real quick. And we know that the hooks can be initialized with what? A function, right? So let's get that from, so if there is no window, come on, right? So let's place another check in here. They can be quite annoying doing all these kind of checks with the window document, right? Then return now, right? Just return now. So then we do this, we grab that, right? So if return, so if there is a stored user, right? JSON.parse the stored user, right? If not, just a null button. That's awesome, right? So we save that. So this will prevent the number of reads that we have to do from Firebase, right? Yeah, especially in this case. Awesome, right? So now we are going to use Auth, right? So let's get Auth user is equal to use Auth. I think we should just return it as an object, right? Because we do want to add this sign out user function right here, so that we modularize some of these stuff. I think that would be better. Yep. So let's place that user, and then let's grab. Right. Let's save that. So we get both of these in one hook, right? So we get a user and then sign out user. Awesome. Okay. Really nice. Really nice. Let's get rid of this. Let's save that. Let's check our application hasn't crashed. Boom, it doesn't crash, right? Pretty freaking awesome. Okay, this is troubling. Anyway, we will handle that soon enough. Because let's see here. Let's see if it actually did call this function, right? Console.log. Was I called? Right, we want to ensure that yes, it wasn't called, right? So if we do check the application local storage, nice, our user is there. Epic. All right, anyway, back to what we're doing. Right, let's get rid of that. Let's go to add post, right? So we were trying to create a post, then we need the user ID, right? So we can simply get that from the use auth, right? Then we need the auth user. Then we come down, all the way down here. Then we say auth user dot user ID. Nice. But this await keyword is annoying. Let's get rid of that. Then handle submits. Oh yes, so you have notification, then show success notification, right? So we do set that, then .then. Okay, so the same thing that we did for the auth modal, where we show success notification and close modal, we are going to repeat the same thing, right? Just that the message will be different, right? So post created, right? Then let's bring in our reset form from format reset form. Nice. Then so we just copy this, right? Because the post has been added, then we have to reset it, right? Set the form. But if a problem does happen, then we want to catch it and do some stuff with it, right? So show, so in this case it's just going to be what, so let's just place that in there. Let's get rid of this, right? So we can add a post now, right? So let's save that. Let's check the application. So we can add a post. Can I add a new post? Okay, so let's say that, and then post. So post created, but we are not getting anything. Right, that's maybe our listeners that's expected HTML to contain a matching div in the header. That's alarming. I wonder what we got back. Well, anyway, let's check the Firebase database. Okay, let's go to posts. So we do have a user ID. That's better, right? So we can add a post and blah blah blah. We will fix this later. Okay, so let's go back to the code. So now we can add a post, right? Let's get rid of that. Okay, but let's go back to the home page, right? And then let's make some few changes to the post schema, because now we are not using an alias anymore. We are rather using a user ID, right? So we have user ID, and we have a post, then the ID of that post, right? So let's save that. We're getting some problems here. That's fine. Yes, the alias, right? So a post item, so posting them with an alias, right? So instead of alias, we are just going to use a user ID. Okay, that's awesome. All right, so then finally, so now we have the ID in there. Then finally, let's go towards the comment section and then make an update to that as well. Right. It's a pretty long comment section. Right. We should do some refactors here as well, but we will do that in due time. Right. The first thing I would like to bring in is my use auth group, and then grab the auth user, right? Because he's the one that is going to be making the post, right? So let's make some changes. So first, let's make, instead of it being an alias, it's going to be a user ID, right? Yes. So over here we should change this into a formic hook. It is quite simple, so use formic, right? Then we have initial values, so comment, that's quick. Then we need the on submit, right? It's just going to be a function that does some other stuff. No, yeah. Okay, so we need to get rid of this and get some objects in here. Handle change and then handle submit, right? Okay, these are hooks. So let's first get rid of this, right? Let's change this to a user ID for now. So we are changing all these simple aliases to just user ID. So now the user won't have to add his ID over here. Oh, values. Okay, so let's bring in values from it. So values, there we have it. Right. Now we need to make some improvements here. Right. So let's I'm just going to grab all this. Grab all this and then move it directly into the submit function. So if there's no post ID, don't add anything, right? Let's get rid of this. So this is to reset the form. By this, in this case, is a comment. So a comment from values.comment. Then the user ID will be what? The auth user ID. Right. So over here will be a .then, or it's a promise. Right. And let's just go and copy what we do have here. Quite simple. And we can get this here. So let's bring these functions. Yes, let's get this function here real quick and then make some change here. Let's add the reset form, handle submit. Oh, let's get rid of the handle submit down at the bottom here. Oh, there's an error case. Let's grab that. Important. Let's handle the catch case with that. Oopsies. Let's handle the catch. So that will be a function returns, and then let's paste that in there. So let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of that. So comment added. So the comment has been added, and this is supposed to close. So set post. Nope, that's not set post. So, yes, there is no close function here because we are just showing all the comments. Right, so let's copy that and paste that in there real quick. And handle submit. Why is handle submit still handle submit? Oh, yeah. Let's get rid of that. Save that. So that should do it. Let's save that. Let's go to the app. Now if I go to this comment, the app is reloaded. Now if so Thomas is here as well. And then we add a post, and then we have our post added. Awesome. Right. So now we've been able to add authentication to the application, right? So that's on the application side, but now we need to add authentication to Firebase, right? The Firebase rules, right? And that's more of you can't write unless you are authenticated, right? So we are going to allow write if request dot auth is not null. Oops. And let's get rid of this one. So you can read from the application, but you can't write. Right. So publish. So it's going to check and bang, right? So if I were to go back into the application and then log out, right? So if I were to log out, what is this? Oh, there is a leak in the application. We do have to fix that. We will do that soon. So if I check the local storage, so it goes away. That's fine. So if I try to add a post comment, can I add a comment? So if I were to comment, it wouldn't work, right? Because I am not allowed a Firebase error, right? I'm not allowed wait a minute, undefined. Yep. So you can't even add that, right? So we have an undefined here. So if we are not logged in, we can't comment, right? So let's add that check real quick, right? So you can't comment over here, right? So if there is no auth user, so if there is no auth user, then it should be null. If else, then you can comment, right? So let's go back to the application. So if we reload, so you can see that we can't comment in the application, right? We need to be logged in. So if I were to go back, so you see sign in, even when I try to, we should prevent that as well, right? So let's go back to the home page, right? So we can't add this button over here, right? So if there is no auth user, right? So we set it to null, and then hide post button, so it can't add. So let's go back into the application and reload. That's weird. Should add that check as well. So we can't add anything, we have to sign in. So if I sign in with my credentials, sign in beautifully. Now let's close this, right? So now I can add a new post, right? Let's do that. So adding new posts for everyone, right? So we can post, there we go. So we have our second post, right? So if we were to go inside it, it's loading. Oh, sorry, that's odd. I make a mistake on here. The app is not responded. Aha, right? Yeah. So now we can make a comment, right? So commenting. Whoa, that's how you spell commenting. Commenting is fun, right? And we post that, then it's added beautifully, right? Commenting is fun. Awesome, right? So we've now migrated most of done some security checks with the application to prevent malicious people from doing unwanted stuff in our application, right? So we could go on to add more security features, but for now that's fine, right? So so that will be it for today. So today we just wanted to add a bit of security. So the next time we are going to make some improvements to the comments or to a particular post area, right, where we can make much better information, and we will change this from showing the ID to rather the alias or the one who added the post, right? And we also add image uploads, right? So you can add a profile image for yourself or access it from Google, wherever. Awesome, right? So that'll be it, guys, and I'll see you all in the next video. Thanks for hanging around, and see you guys later. Bye.